Hey y'all. Today, let's dive into the abbreviated history of Dell.
The number one supplier of desktop PCs to corporate
not
America.
that Dell. There we go. And specifically, their comics branch. Dell Publishing had its humble beginnings in 1921 with New York City-born George T. Delacorte Jr. After many years of working in the magazine publishing business and a single bi-weekly pulp magazine called I Confess, marketed as true accounts of middle-class women's lives and scandals told in a confessional style. This gave it a unique edge in a market saturated with self-proclaimed cheap fiction. Quick little side note, if you're unfamiliar with pulp magazines, they were the go-to entertainment from 1896 to around 1955. They got their name from the cheap wood pulp paper that they were printed on. Affordable? Yep. Durable? Absolutely not. Now back to Dell. I Confess was a hit, and its success helped Dell grow into one of the largest and most successful magazine publishers of its time. This paved the way for Dell Comics, founded in 1929, and their very first title, The Funnies. Now, The Funnies wasn't exactly what we'd think of as a comic book today. It was more of a newspaper tabloid insert, but still, it ran for 36 weekly issues until October 16, 1930. Then, in 1933, Dell made history by publishing Famous Funnies, a carnival of comics, widely considered the first true American comic book. By 1938, Dell had partnered with Western Publishing, and this collaboration launched them into the stratosphere. Together, they created titles that sold millions of copies. So what made Dell different? Well, while other publishers were jumping on the superhero bandwagon in the early 1940s, Dell found its niche in licensed properties aimed at younger readers. They published comics featuring Disney characters, Warner Brothers cartoons, MGM classics, and others like Tarzan, The Lone Ranger, Howdy Doody, Felix the Cat, and Yogi Bear. Many of these characters appeared in Dell's anthology series, 4-Color Comics. 4-Color was essentially the first tryout publication for comic book characters. If a character performed well in 4-Color, they often spun off into their own series. And all of this was more than a decade before DC introduced Showcase or The Brave and the Bold. So take that, superheroes. But Dell wasn't just innovating in comics. In 1943, they ventured into paperback publishing with Dell Paperbacks. These became famous for their map-back novels that featured maps on the back cover to help readers visualize the story's setting. These novels are highly sought after amongst book collectors. In the 1950s, public fear about comic books corrupting young readers led to the creation of the Comics Code Authority, which strictly regulated comic content. But Dell said, nah, we good. They refused to join the Comics Code Authority and instead published their own pledge to parents, promising that their editorial standards eliminate rather than regulate objectionable material. This pledge also introduced their now iconic tagline, Dell Comics are good comics. By the mid-1950s, Dell was at the peak of its success. In 1953, they accounted for a staggering 1/3 of all comic books sold. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end. In 1962, Dell's partnership with Western Publishing ended. Western took the licensed properties and original material they developed together and launched their own imprint, Gold Key Comics. Dell was left scrambling to fill this void. Without its beloved properties, Dell attempted to break into the superhero market. They created original characters like Nuclear and bizarre superhero versions of classic movie monsters. It just didn't work. Dell struggled on for another decade, but ultimately ceased publishing comics in 1973. But this technically wasn't the end of Dell. In 1976, Dell was acquired by Doubleday, which was then acquired by Bertelsmann in 1986. In 1998, Bertelsmann acquired Random House. Fast forward a bit, Random House acquired Golden Books in 2001, technically reuniting Dell and Western Publishing in a way. Random House merged with Penguin to form Penguin Random House in 2013, so Dell Publishing still exists somewhere within the dusty depths of Penguin Random House. Meanwhile, Dell Magazines was sold off in 1996 to Penny Publications. Dell Magazines had found major success in puzzles, publishing its first puzzle magazine, Dell Crossword Puzzles, in 1931. And here's the cool part. Dell Crossword Puzzles has been published continuously without interruption. I gotta say, I find it a shame that Dell Comics is often remembered only for its decline. People forget that Dell was once the industry giant, producing the most diverse line of comics ever published. At their peak, they set a standard few could match. Their creativity, innovation, and sheer output deserves recognition. So the next time you pick up a puzzle, crack open a paperback, or revisit some vintage cartoon nostalgia, take a moment to put some respect on Dell's name. And that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, have a wonderful day out there.